Welcome to the James Skrmetta Show podcast, presented to you by Matt Card, Anderson & Associates, PLLC. Thank you for joining me. I do appreciate that. Recording on a Monday. Recording here on a Monday, a drizzly Monday. It is raining where I've been, or where the studio is. There are hurricanes every week. It's rained literally for probably 14 days straight. I don't know what the sunshine looks like anymore. It's getting pretty grim around these parts. So it's been tough. It's certainly been tough to try and maintain in that, but we're doing our best here. Thank you for joining me. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. We got some Joe Rogan talk, the idea of him debating or moderating a debate between Trump and Biden. We're going to talk the Emmys, including what upset win means. And we're going to talk about Kerry Washington and an interesting tweet this year. We're going to reflect. This show, today's show, I wouldn't say is as topical, or I guess it is kind of topical. I mean, all these topics are out there, but it's not as hard-hitting as some of the shows. There's not a apocalyptic race debate. At least I don't plan for that to be in here. But a little bit of housekeeping real quick. We've been doing great on YouTube. YouTube has been blowing up recently. A ton of views, a ton of stuff like that. So if you are missing out on the podcast, or if you're hoping to get more than just the podcast, please go over to YouTube. Just search my name and you will find me. Also on this podcast channel, I guess we could say, we've been putting up, or we did last week, we put up a rant of the week from the stream. So that was actually from the Twitch stream. So I might be doing that every week now, where we'll just kind of highlight one specific thing just in case you can't listen to 3 or 4 hours or whatever of content we're putting out a week. That way I'll just spotlight one thing that I think is good or that I think is relevant or whatever, and we'll just put it out on its own later in the week. So for a nice, easy, digestible recap. Now, let's get to the show. I'm feeling pretty good today. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling pretty good today, so I'm not going to beat you down with podcast talk. Let's get straight into it. Let's be loose. Let's be loose today, huh? No, like I said, no hailstorms or fire burning. We may talk about the West Coast on fire. We may mention that, but all in all, it's Monday. Feeling pretty good. Hopefully you are feeling the same. How the hell are you doing? I mean, really, how are you doing in this quarantine? We're so deep into it. It's crazy. I say quarantine, but it's really not quarantine anymore. It's really just this new normal, right? It's really just this new normal, this new idea of what's going on and what's life like. And is this what life is like? Some people are coming around to the idea. Some people are still defending the wall. Some people are still saying that masks are. I had somebody tell me recently, as in like 2 days ago, told me that if people kept wearing masks, then masks cause staph infections in the nose, and their noses would be amputated. They really believe this, and they really believe that there was dangers in the mask because it could potentially lead to their noses being cut off. Now, I'm not going to say that it's indicative that he spelled staph S-T-A-F-F, but I will say that I think that did take away a little bit of his argument. So some people are okay with what's going on. Some people are just living their life. Some people are trying to figure it out. Some people have completely warped into a new normal, I guess you could say, a new way of thinking, a new life. I think we'll touch on some of that today. My coffee machine is broken. First story of the day. My coffee machine it's not broken, but every once in a while, I think it gets jammed up, it gets bubbles in the pipes. So I've had to go to Starbucks and McDonald's for my morning coffee the past 2 days. Not happy about that at all. So it's a real trying time here. It's a real grapes of wrath situation in my neck of the woods. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a hypocrite. Let that sink in. I am a hypocrite. Everything I've told you is a lie. Now, I know that was a harsh transition, but I have to get this off my chest. I have lied to you. I am a hypocrite, and what I say should not be trusted. Months ago, I told you, do not use this time. Do not get sucked into a Netflix binge situation. Do not find yourself where all you're doing is watching a TV show or watching a series every waking moment. Don't do that to yourself. That is very dangerous. Don't do that. That's what I told you. I'm sure you remember that. Well, I'm here to tell you that I have fallen down that hole. I am obsessed with the Netflix show. I cannot stop watching. I cannot stop talking about it or thinking about it. And thus, we are starting the podcast off with it. True life, ladies and gentlemen, this is my story. I am obsessed and have become obsessed within the last 5 days with Gilmore Girls. Now, I know you may be surprised. I know you may be thinking, whoa. James, what are you talking about? Obsessed with Gilmore Girls? But how could you do that? I mean, I'm sure everyone expected me to be obsessed with riding a motorcycle through the mountains or leather jackets or, a jawline that'll slice and dice your entire family up. I mean, all these things, people, the rumors of what a Ryan Gosling-esque human being like myself. That's just what people tell me. I would never say that about myself. But someone like me, watching Gilmore Girls of all shows, how did this happen? Well, I shall tell you the tale. I shall tell you the story. Sit back, relax, kick your feet up, and let me unwind this yarn. So about a week ago, my sister and I was sitting at my parents' house. My sister was there, and we were talking about fall, and we were talking about Christmas time and how wonderful that time of the year is. It's kind of cooled down outside a little bit, and we were talking about all the great things that come with the holiday season. And she was saying that she loves holiday episodes of shows. She loves when shows, you're immersed into the snow and you're immersed into the autumn and the orange flowers and the lights and all that stuff. And I said, yeah, I like that too. And so she said that her favorite holiday episodes are in Gilmore Girls. Now, when I was growing up, a young rapscallion, as some would say, I loved Gilmore Girls. I watched it, as many people I'm sure watched it. The show came out in 2000. I was, at that point, 11 years old. And I would probably come home from work, catch a random episode, have no clue where the story was. But back in the day, that's how TV watching was. And, people that are a little younger may not believe that, but we didn't watch shows episode to episode. We didn't watch series. We didn't care about season finales or twists or turns. We just had a show on, whether that show was Friends or Seinfeld or Gilmore Girls or Seventh Heaven or whatever. And you would just sit back, do your homework, have the show in the background, like the characters, and that was it. And it would be on for a couple hours, and you go about your day. Nowadays, it's not like that, but I digress. But I had never watched the show fully from start to finish. I never watched like episode after episode after episode. I knew the characters, I knew the gist, but I didn't know the series. So I said, we actually watched one of her favorite episodes, one of the Christmas episodes. And it was in like season 2. And I loved the episode. I knew I would. I liked the show. And I said, you know what? I've got some time on my hands. I'll start the whole series over, and I'll watch it. Now, it's a daunting task, I say. 7 seasons and a new season on Netflix, which is like 4 episodes of 90-minute shows. So we're talking, 150 episodes or something like that, somewhere in that ballpark. So it was last Wednesday as in, 5 days ago. And I started watching the show. And I hastily report to you that since Wednesday, so we're not even a week in, I've watched probably, and by probably I mean I know exactly how many episodes I've watched. I've watched 31 episodes, I believe. 31 episodes. I'm averaging about 6 episodes a day. And I cannot stop watching Gilmore Girls. And it's, at this point now, it's become an addiction. At this point now, Amy Winehouse thinks I need to get a grip. At this point now, Whitney Houston is telling me that she's embarrassed. At this point now, we have reached that level to where AA won't even let me go into the meetings. All right? If there's a Gilmore Girls Anonymous, please send me the link. Send me the letters. And as I do, I tend to reflect a little bit when new things happen. And so I started to reflect, and I started to say, man, what the hell is going on? Like, why am I loving this show so much? And so it really made me think about how we watch television, or just television in general nowadays. And by nowadays, I mean the last 10 years. If you think about the shows that were the most popular in the last 10 years, you're going to talk about shows like Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Mad Men. Of course, shows like that. Those were the shows. Those were the most popular shows. And all those shows are kind of the same. They're very dark. They're very dramatic. They're, groomed in violence and sexuality and backstabbing and what have you. And then I started to think about, like I previously said, shows when I was growing up. Very different shows. Now, I'm sure there were some shows like that, but Gilmore Girls is a great example. Gilmore Girls is, I promise you, this conversation is not all about Gilmore Girls. It's more about the idea of the medium that is television and the idea that the medium that is storytelling. But Gilmore Girls was filmed in 2000, right? And went on for 7 years. So 2000, like 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. A very different time. And the episodes are so interesting because I was watching the episodes. I was finding myself thinking, oh, well, this person is going to cheat on this guy with this guy. Oh, this person is going to backstab this person. Oh, this person's going to die. This person's going to get in a car accident. Oh my goodness, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. That was I don't usually have my notifications on. That's very unprofessional of me. But we don't edit here, so we'll leave it in. So there you go. Even I can fall victim to the social dilemma. But I was thinking all these characters, I'm thinking of these like awful, dramatic, over-the-top things, and none of it happened. Not only did none of it happen, but it almost aggressively didn't happen. If there was an argument in the first 10 minutes of the show, it would be completely solved and forgotten 30 minutes into the show, and we'd be moving on to something else. 31 episodes in, there has been no strife. There has been no sadness. It's really just been happiness all over the place. And the most simple kind of happiness. Now, if you've never watched the show, I'll give you a very brief overview. The show takes place in Stars Hollow. It's a small town in Connecticut. The town is so small. It's basically like it's like a circle, right? You go around the town. There's like 10 houses in the town. You know everybody. Everyone knows everyone. The market is owned by a guy that everyone knows. The diner is owned by a guy that everyone knows, and it just goes from there. So the show is very small, and it's focused on a mother-daughter combo. Lorelai is the mom, Rory is the daughter, and but that's the entire show. And it's crazy because it's only 20 years ago, but it could not be more different than how life is now. It could not be more different than what we are currently living in. Every single aspect of the show. Now, I understand that it's a fictitious town. I understand that it's fictitious characters, in a storybook kind of situation. So it's not supposed to be real life. But when you parallel it with what we are living through nowadays, no wonder people are so pissed off nowadays. No wonder people are so anxious nowadays. No wonder people are just so sad nowadays. And I myself have fallen victim to that. I myself have fallen into the trap. Even though I see the trap, I myself have fallen into the trap of the doom and gloom of 2020, the doom and gloom of what this reality is like and what our life is like. Even I, who get on here and talk to you a couple hours a week about the very problems. Even I'm not immune to this. And watching Gilmore Girls, as crazy as that sounds, has really made me think about the simple times, the simple things, what life used to be like, and kind of what life should be like. Kind of what it should be like. It's so sad to think about people spending hours and hours and hours, and we will get to a lot of those people in the show, on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, just fuming mad, just angry, pissed off at everybody, angry, pissed off at everything, just angry, pissed off at the world in general, hating the country, hating the city they're in, hating their job, hating their friends, hating everything. Going on Twitter and Instagram, commenting, fueling the hate, spewing the fire. Everything is so polarized. Everything is red or blue. Everything is we, just like we talked about last week on the Social Dilemma podcast, we don't agree on anything. Anti-vax, vax, whatever. You're my enemy. You're my friend. We're a tribe. Destroy the others. And 20 years ago, that was not it. 20 years ago, that was not the case. And even, I would say I grew up in a relatively small town, 40,000 people or so. Nothing crazy. But I remember back in the day, going to something as simple as like a Halloween carnival for my elementary school. And all the parents kind of talking and all of them kind of knowing each other. But, some were more friendly than others. But none of them were skewering the other one because they voted for Al Gore. None of them were skewering because they voted for George Bush. And it's just so... It's really kind of teleported me to a new place where in Stars Hollow, the city where Gilmore Girls is the plot is that it's not filmed, obviously, but the story where it is that, in Stars Hollow, that strife is not there. The small town air is there. The small town problems are there. The small town gossip or whatever. But it's really just people living. And it's made me think that, I've been on record as saying that I think right now is probably the most difficult time to be alive as far as like mental and navigating. I don't mean like, comfort or economically. Obviously, there's other times that are worse. But in this specific time, it is so hard to navigate. And we've gotten so far away from the simple things. And this isn't an Andy Griffith plea. We shouldn't go back to the simple things. Like, we shouldn't go backwards to, or I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I'm not saying we should. That's not even an option, right? But what I do want to do, and why I even brought up Gilmore Girls, besides it's all I can talk about, is I do think we do need to kind of relax and take a breath and focus on some of the simple things and get some of those simple things back. I mean, how many of those simple things do we not even have anymore? And that's sad. And that is sad that we don't even have them. They don't exist. Going down to the small diner that may be in your city, or going to grab a cup of coffee, or just sitting outside, or what have you. Those things seem to not even exist. And 20 years, that's not that long. 20 years, and our society is just so much different. So I implore you to take some time and maybe get into a little rocket ship and time travel backwards. Just relax for 1 second. Put down the self-help book. Put down, whatever you're doing to improve your professional career, or whatever just put that down for 1 second and go back to something you loved when you were growing up. Or you might not even have been growing up, just something that's simpler. Transport yourself into a different place. Go read the Harry Potter books. Go reread or go rewatch Harry Potter. Transport yourself there. Go to Hogwarts. Go watch Friends. Go to the Central Perk. Watch Gilmore Girls. Do those things. It's crazy to think about, even a few years ago, where people would get so excited for Lifetime movies, like the holiday movies, like the Hallmark movies or whatever. And it's crazy to even think about people doing that nowadays, because they would have to take time out of their busy schedule of screaming at people on the opposite political spectrum on Twitter. I bought a candle. I bought a freaking candle. I bought a Yankee Candle. Gilmore Girls is basically if a Yankee Candle had a TV show about its holiday scent. That is Gilmore Girls. I went and bought a Yankee Candle. The scent, you ask? Home Sweet Home. And every night I have been, recently, it's only been 5 days, but every night I come home and I sit on the couch, I read some of my book, and I light the candle. And I just sit there. And I would say I've been relatively detached in the last 5 days from my computer, from the internet. There was one day, I think it was like maybe last Friday, something like that. I went through the whole day, and I was home all day. I may have taken a ride or something, but I wasn't doing anything. And at the end of the night, it was a quaint day, I would say. At the end of the night, I looked around, and I was like, holy shit. This is the first day since quarantine where I have not been on a computer at all. Like, I didn't check email. I didn't watch. I didn't do anything. I was not on the computer at all. And I was just breathing. That day I had like mopped, and I had, read the book and maybe did a workout or something, cooked dinner. Very normal, simple day. And it's crazy that it was not refreshing, but almost surprising how that never happens anymore, So this is a plea from me, your lovely guide into the oblivion that we call 2020, to take a breath, take a break, relax. You don't have to have this all figured out right now. This time could not be more scary. This time could not be more confusing. Take a minute, turn off MSNBC, turn off CNN, and allow yourself to breathe and take a minute. Go somewhere else. Transport yourself somewhere else. Trust me, you will enjoy it. And thank you to Rory and Lorelai and Stars Hollow. Stars Hollow is so much better than what we have right now in 2020. Prying myself away from Stars Hollow to do this podcast was hard enough. Speaking of this podcast, guys, we are presented, like usual, by the great folk at Mackard Anderson & Associates, PLLC, 601-450-1715. The website is MacHardLaw.com, MCHARDLAW.com. In this time, I said was so confusing and so hard to deal with, don't make it any harder by trying to represent yourself in a legal situation, negotiate yourself, litigate yourself. Don't do that. That's dumb. Don't do that. What you also shouldn't do is hire some scuzzo billboard, click it, one click, that's it, 15 minutes or less. Don't do that either. Don't take the shortcut for no reason. The answer is right in front of you. Just go to Mackard Anderson & Associates, PLLC. Tell them that James Skrmetta sent you, or that they heard about their services, or you heard about their services on the James Skrmetta Show podcast. Well, James, what are their services? Great question. Car wrecks, 18-wheeler collisions, wrongful death, bad faith insurance claims, fire loss, termite damage, offshore injuries, employment discrimination, and contract business disputes. These guys care about you. They don't care about their Lamborghinis. They don't care about their billboards. They don't care about their front row seats at the Pelicans games. They care about you. They care about your future. They care about your family. They care about your security. And I know you care about that. So if y'all both care about it, it's definitely going to get handled. Again, 601-450-1715, MacHardLaw.com, MCHARDLAW.com. I would trust them literally with my life. Shall we continue? Let's talk about some dumb stuff. Zendaya. Y'all know who Zendaya is? Zendaya is a young actress. She was in the Spider-Man movie. She was in Euphoria, other stuff like that. Pretty lady. Zendaya won the best. Let's see what she actually won. I didn't watch. I'm not sure. Let's see. She won, I think, the best. Yeah, wins Emmy over Jennifer Aniston, Laura Linney. I think she had the best female performance in a drama or something like that. Now, people on Twitter were calling it an upset win. Many news agencies used the headline, Zendaya wins Emmy in biggest upset win. Now, the rest of Twitter, the rest of the echo chamber, destroyed these headlines. The New York Post had one. And they tore them up because they were saying things like, quote, I wasn't upset. Zendaya's performance in Euphoria was phenomenal. Next. No one's upset. Hate to see a powerful woman winning an award she deserves, I see. This is really kind of par for the course nowadays. This is what happens whenever people are so detached that they can't even agree or understand what simple words mean, what simple phrases. I mean, this is almost like out of a cartoon. This is almost like out of some kind of different thing. You would never hear this, right? In reality, you would never hear someone say like, "Oh, drop dead," and then someone call the police and be like, "Hey, this guy just attempted to murder me." Like that's how far away we are. And this goes more to last podcast where we talked about the social dilemma. We talked about how people are living in so many multi-realities that the things that should be common ground, the things that should be understood, the things that should be commonplace are not, because people are just operating in their own individual ways. People are just operating in their own bubble. And that could not be shown any more than a bubble like this, where even a simple phrase like the biggest upset win has adults. I mean, this isn't like children. This isn't children who are like first hearing the word upset and don't realize that it can be used in multiple connotations. These are adults. These are adults who are watching TV shows, watching the Emmys, having opinions, having Twitters, having social media, voting. I just almost had a conniption thinking about it. But voting. I mean, these are the people. This is where we are. Now think about that also. Think about that also, that these people are out there wildly spreading their opinions on Twitter, Facebook, wherever else. Maybe making YouTube videos, maybe even having a podcast. They could be doing all of that. And when you think about disinformation, when you think about disillusionment, when you think about how are we where we are, how are we so divided, I believe that we're so divided because of stuff like this. It's not that we're so divided because of Trump or because of Obama or because of right or left or because of the Middle East or because of what's going on in Jerusalem. I think we're divided because of these little things that used to be part of just a common tribe or a common people. Even something like this can divide because people are so prepared to be divided. People are so prepared to be upset that they're picking apart literally every word, every sentence, every headline, every phrase. Think about this. I'll reread the headline. Biggest upset. Zendaya wins Emmys 2020 over Jennifer Aniston, Laura Linney, and then a link to the story. Now, someone saw that and said, not only did they say, why are we upset about this? Maybe they wouldn't understand. Maybe they never heard the phrase. But then they switch it all the way to a powerful woman winning an award she deserves. Now, we could also talk about how that's irrelevant because it's an award for women. So a powerful woman would win the award no matter who it was. So it doesn't make any sense why that would be the reason for the upset. But again, a lot of common sense is put into that. Do you see how this is such like a slippery slope? That something like this, people are so prepared to, one, criticize and destroy, two, to make it about some bigger overarching ideal that has nothing to do with it. A simple thing like the Emmys, which we'll talk about, a simple thing like the Emmys, a simple thing about a TV show, even that could be fuel to divide. Is that where we should be? Is that any kind of safe place to exist? How terrifying of a place. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that, poor New York Post. How dare anyone be mean to our beloved New York Post? But I'm saying, can you imagine people walking on these kind of eggshells to where something as simple as this sentence can incur the wrath of someone, which garnered more than 1,000 likes on Twitter, that immediately turned this into a powerful woman being held down by this media conglomerate? It just seems so insane to me. And yes, obviously, the worst part of this is the education level, or maybe not the education level, but just the common sense level and the intelligence level that they couldn't figure out that biggest upset is a phrase that, is for underdogs and whatever else. Even though that should be the headline here, even though that should be what we're talking about, that this person just screwed the pooch that much, but possibly they didn't know what it means. Possibly they don't know what biggest upset means. But to make the jump that quickly, it's just a really good reflection of where we currently are, of where we currently live, and why people are so pissed off. This person may have not seen the response. This person may not even have seen this article. So this person, Amy, is her username. Amy may have seen this and went straight to her friends and said, look at this bullshit right here. The New York Post is anti-woman. The New York Post hates Zendaya. People are shitting on Zendaya's win. No one likes Zendaya. And what does that create, ladies and gentlemen? If you listened to the podcast last week, you know the answer. You studied for the quiz. It creates an alternate reality where this person is no longer living amongst us. She is now living in the place where the New York Post claimed that they are upset that Zendaya won the Emmy over Jennifer Aniston and Laura Linney. And just like that, Amy's poor mind, has been ruptured with anger and angst. As a woman, I think her picture is Rita Ora. So it might, who knows? It might just be some 47-year-old guy named Dan living in Wisconsin who made his name Amy with a picture of Rita Ora. I don't know. I don't know Dan. I don't know Amy. But now this person is living in this world where people are pissed that Zendaya won. A troublesome look at our society indeed. Now let's talk about the Emmys. Let's actually talk about the Emmys. So I didn't watch the Emmys, but I did get a few things sent to me about how Jimmy Kimmel was doing his monologue in front of no crowd. Something that I made famous about a year ago when they didn't have an Oscar host. And I made a video where I hosted the Oscars, did the monologue, whatever. Very fun. Put it on Twitter if you want to go find it. It's on my Twitter at James_Skrmetta. And this idea, when I first saw it, I'll admit, when I first saw it, I thought, should we be having an Emmys? What the hell are the Emmys, right? And this is where we talk about the world burning. The world is literally burning. The West Coast is literally on fire. The air quality is as bad has been as bad on the West Coast as it was in downtown Manhattan after 9/11. That's not a joke. That's actually true. The air quality in California, I think it was 2 weeks ago when the wildfires were happening, the air quality there was as bad as it was the day of 9/11 in Manhattan for like 13 days straight or something. The world is burning, right? There's a lot of shit happening. Riots, political unrest. We're coming up on election season. Ooh, that should be fun. I'm elated. We're coming up on election season. Everything's shit, except in Stars Hollow. Nothing is shit in Stars Hollow. I cannot wait to finish this podcast so I can go back to Stars Hollow. That's how much I care about each and every one of you, that I removed myself from my alternate reality where I live in Stars Hollow just to come here and talk to each and every one of you. But as this is happening, as everything is as bad as it possibly could be, we're not even going to talk about the quarantine and the coronavirus or whatever. As it is as bad as it could be, should there be an Emmys? It does feel weird, doesn't it? It does feel weird to have an award show celebrating the actors and actresses. It does feel kind of weird to have that. It does. It in a way it is, right? But then I thought, actually maybe it's good. Actually, maybe it is good. Maybe we do need a break. Maybe we do need a reprieve. Maybe this bit of normalcy does need to happen. I've been really enjoying the NFL. I've been really enjoying watching that. And it is a bit of a reprieve. I don't want to watch debates. I don't want to watch any more CNN or Fox News or whatever. I don't want Tucker Carlson to be the only person that's on TV. I do think there should be a reprieve. Obviously, my whole opening monologue was about Gilmore Girls. Okay? You know where I stand. So then I thought, okay, you know what? Actually, it is good that we have the Emmys. Actually, it is good that we have this kind of stuff. I remember when I was growing up, one of my favorite nights of the year was the MTV Movie Awards. And the MTV Video Music Awards, that's what it was. Every night, every year, I get so excited to watch people go up and get their Moon Men, and it was just this weird, I don't know why I liked it so much, but they were always fun, they were always funny, and all that good stuff. Now they've morphed into something a little different where each show is so, has such a message or so political, and you never know what you're actually going to see. And so when I watched the Emmys and I saw Jimmy Kimmel giving his monologue and I saw the actors and actresses at their houses receiving their awards, it was interesting how they did it. Every actor and actress, they would receive their award in their own home, and they would give their speech from their home, and they'd give their speech via like Zoom or via whatever else. Like many of us have had to operate over the last 6 months, where our world is through this camera lens. Our world is through a computer, and we're seeing inside of other people's homes, and there is no group efforts, and there is no big elaborate award show. And it was surreal. It was. So I did watch the monologue. Someone sent me the monologue, so I did watch the monologue. I didn't watch the rest of the Emmys, but I heard people are pissed off about Zendaya. But it was surreal to see. As much as I don't like the idea of a room full of celebrities or whatever, but I don't miss the days, but it's so interesting to see those days feel so far away. They feel so far away where Jimmy Kimmel would make a joke, and then we would cut to laughing faces, and we would cut to the rest of the celebrities in the crowd, and we would cut to whoever he was talking about, and they would be sitting there in their $30,000 tuxedo drinking champagne. As much as that moment isn't great, it's just crazy. It's just another reminder of where the hell we are, and another reminder of what we're doing. And I've heard a lot of people say, should we have had the Emmys? And I just wanted to put my mark on that, and that I think it's fine that we had the Emmys. I think it's fine that we do stuff that isn't related to whatever's going on in the world, whatever political thing is going on, whatever societal thing is going on. I don't think every waking moment needs to be that. I really don't. And I think, a lot of people have reached out to me about the social dilemma. I mentioned that. We did 2 hours of podcast on it last week. And we've talked about a ton of those ideals that were brought up on the social dilemma here on the podcast. And as much as I do think people need to detach and want to detach, and people are even more confused now because of the social dilemma, I don't think we should just throw it all away. I don't think we should just take everything we used to enjoy. It's kind of like junk food, Like, I would say I have a pretty strict diet. I don't like to ingest a lot of sugars. I don't like to ingest a lot of carbs. I don't like to ingest a lot of preservatives. But sometimes I just do. And I like to think that it makes me better. I like to think that it makes my everything more normalized. Like every once in a while, look, guys, every once in a while you need a double cheeseburger. Every once in a while you need a quarter pounder. Every once in a while you need alcohol. Think about whenever you go through a breakup, whenever you go through a job opportunity, when you go through something bad, something shitty. And what you want to do is eat some ice cream, eat junk food, eat some nachos, cry, go get stupid blackout drunk and throw up. There is room for that in life. There is room for fun. There is room for the stupid. The idea that we shouldn't have the Emmys because we have all this strife. It's like, what do you want us to do? What do you want humanity to look like? Do you want it to be just brown? Do you want it to be just gray? Do you want everyone to be pissed off every moment of every day and no one having fun at all, no one living at all until everything is figured out? Because I got a sneaky feeling if we do that, if we allow ourselves to be immersed in that setting, nothing will get figured out. Our setting will just become that. Our setting will just be that. We will be living in that. We will just exist in that. We won't exist in a little bit of good, a little bit of bad, a little bit of this. I think it's time, man. I think it's time we all kind of go backwards and we just put that shit aside and start living again. Now, I'm not saying that living again should be take your mask off, whirl around your head like a helicopter. Shouts to Petey Pablo, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying we should be running into businesses with no mask and coughing all over the waiters and waitresses and the maitre d's and licking the hibachi table. First of all, it would burn your tongue. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that I think we should allow ourselves a reprieve away from checking the latest coronavirus numbers or checking the latest polls with Biden, or Trump, or checking all these things. I think that in these 6 months, and this is part of the difficulty of navigating it, is that there's a lot of people who have been living in a bubble, right? A lot of people who I recently went and ate at a restaurant for the first time recently, and I was nervous, and it was kind of weird. But there's regulations in place. I wore a mask, and we were all good to go. But I do think that as important as some of these things are, as important as some of these issues are, and they are important, we talk about them all the time on the show, I don't think we need to obsess over them all the time to where we're only living for these issues. We're only living to play our part in taking down the establishment. We're only living to play our part in taking down whichever political candidate you don't like. We're only living to take down the New York Post for shitting all over Zendaya. I don't think we need to do that. And I do admit, early on, I did say we don't need to also be only exclusively living in these other fake places, whatever, TV shows, books, movies, video games, what have you. But we've got to get back to a balance. I don't think we're at a balance. I think we're away from a balance, if anything. I think people are forcing themselves into a no balance. I've had more conversations about political and socio-economical things in the past 2 months than I think I have had in my entire life. People just looking for answers, or people angry, or people trying to discuss things. And I told y'all last week where we had the NFL boycott situation. Even that, guys, the Saints game on Fox was a primetime game on Fox last week. I think it was the highest rated game in Fox history besides the Super Bowl. Don't weigh yourself down with wondering, should I be boycotting the NFL? Don't weigh yourself down with, should I be boycotting this company or this sporting event or this game or this actor or this movie? Don't weigh yourself down with that. How many questions do we have? We're like in a survey, right? It's like, oh, I want to watch this movie. Ooh, who's in it? This actor. Oh, wasn't he a Me Too? We can't watch that. Oh shit. Who's the director? Oh, that's the director. He's a big Trump guy. We can't do that. Oh damn, I wanted to watch that movie though, but I can't because I'm living for the cause. Go watch the movie. Go watch the stupid movie. It was a few weeks ago. Me and my friends were watching a wrestling pay-per-view and eating pizza and wings and whatever, and all socially distanced, of course. And we were just talking about stupid stuff. We were just talking about stupid stuff that did not have any worldviews in it at all, that did not have any kind of importance whatsoever. We were just laughing and cutting up, and it was just dumb. And, there was nothing to do with stuff that would change the world. It was nothing to do with the voting. It was nothing to do with that. There is a time and a place. Obviously, we have spent so many hours just this year. I mean, it's September. It's the end of September now. We spent so much time talking about real world issues. We mix and match. We talk about some fun stuff. But I've told you on this podcast, I don't want to be in that cycle. I don't want to get on here every single week and we open up the show saying, all right, now and in the news, Joe Biden, in the news, Donald Trump, in the news, Syria. There is a time and a place. But my God, go watch the movie. Eat the pizza. Play the video game. Watch the movie. Watch the movie, ladies and gentlemen. We're not wasting time, but we're not allowing ourselves to live. We're not allowing ourselves to have fun. The Emmys were last night, and already I'm dealing with the two questions. First question, should the Emmys have even happened? Should I feel guilty about watching the Emmys? Shouldn't they be putting all of their money together in a big pot and putting out the wildfires? And then the second one is people who are so pissed off just always that they take the Zendaya article and they morph it into something else. It's tough. Now, this leads me to another interesting tweet. This tweet is from Kerry Washington. I don't follow Kerry Washington. Sorry, Kerry. But it had like 30,000 retweets, 100,000 likes, 150,000 likes. And I thought the tweet was actually really interesting. And it's something else we've talked about and something that I would like to bring up. Kerry Washington, here's the exact tweet. Been asking myself why we're losing our heroes this year. I'm thinking maybe the time for hero worship is ending. Those singular souls cannot carry all the weight. We must each step into being heroes of our own community. Democracy needs us all. The word means power by the people. Now, I think Kerry's reached a bit here. I don't think we're in a weird place where some omnipotent being is or as some of my friends would say, omnipotent being, is striking down heroes because it's time that hero worship is over. Like, that seems a little bit much. But we did talk about this probably 5 months ago when we talked about the idea of celebrity was crumbling. The idea of celebrity would crumble. Why would it crumble? Because celebrity is built in mystique. Hero is built in mystique, right? We don't know everything about them. We just know the good things about them. Well, now we know everything about them. And we realize that, man, you know what? It's not too different than me. Ellen DeGeneres is a great example. That was who I was talking about when we first mentioned the crumbling down of celebrity. We know Ellen as the happy-go-lucky, bubbly person on her show. When you took away the wardrobe and the studio and the writers and the producers and it was just us and her sunroom, all of a sudden it was like, she's a lot less Ellen DeGeneres and more just a lady named Ellen. And as that happens, like watching The Late Show is very different when it's coming from, James Corden's studio, like in his apartment. All of a sudden then it's like, well, this is just kind of a person. Like, this isn't a show. This isn't a celebrity. This isn't a hero. This happened quickly, and social media is a big part of that. And I've explained this before, but it's the same thing as when you look at the tabloids or you look at how we used to watch like Cribs. I loved the MTV show Cribs because I loved to see how they were living. Well, we don't need Cribs. We have social media. We have Instagram. I mean, we've seen inside of Kylie Jenner's house more than some people have seen inside their parents' house, right? So tabloids went away. Cribs went away. It's all changing. And I do agree with Kerry Washington. I do think that the time of celebrity or hero worship or whatever, I do think that is over. I would say that Brad Pitt's stock is probably lowest right now than it's ever been in his entire life. And why? I think people just don't care that much about celebrity anymore. They don't care that much about quote-unquote hero worship. Now, I do think that everyone should have someone they look up to. Everyone should have someone they aspire to be, or someone may motivate you. You may love the works of Jonathan Franzen. You may think that he's the last great American novelist, and you may love what he has going on. But that's a big difference than how it used to be, where we held these people, the Brad Pitts, Leonardo DiCaprios, the Jennifer Anistons, we held them in such high regard. They were literally royalty. And that's over now. And I think that's a good thing. And I do agree with Carrie that it is kind of time for all of us to be the heroes. Now, I know this all sounds a bit like Tony Robbins, and I don't mean heroes and we all need to be the greatest person to ever live. I mean heroes in like we just need to be the star of our own story. Back in the day, it was a lot of like, well, I'm living in Topeka, Kansas. I can't be Brad Pitt. I can't be this thing. There's no bridge between the celebrities that are Brad Pitt, that are Leonardo DiCaprio, whoever. They seemingly were just getting chosen by some omnipotent, shall we, hand that just picked them out of wherever and placed them on our movie screens. Well, there are bridges now. There are so many bridges now to being your own hero, your own celebrity, whatever. If you want to be an actor, if you want to be an actress, if you want to be a comedian, a musician, things like YouTube, Twitch, whatever, you can just do it on your own. And even if you don't want to do the content creation thing, even if we're not talking about a literal movie star, you can do anything now. The bridges, and again, I don't want to make this a Tony Robbins-esque podcast, but what I mean is literally you can do anything with what we have, the resources that we have. There is almost nothing that is off limits to someone in their own house. I mean, we've seen that with how they're producing these shows. The Tonight Show can be produced from a studio apartment. So all of that combined, I do agree that I think we are moving away from that. I do think, which I think is why we're moving away from politicians. Politicians were these people who were just politicians. We don't know where they came from. We don't know where, John Kerry came from. All of a sudden, he was just always a politician. He was always in conversations for vice president or possibly president. We don't know. But now everyone has a voice. Everyone his face can be put anywhere. Even like Trump, right? Trump just probably never ever would have become president 10 years ago because you got to be a politician. But now those bridges are available, and anyone can just step over into a different field or into a different universe because of all these resources. Twitter, Facebook, whatever. A lot of people believe Twitter got Trump elected, and they might be right, which would not have been a thing. So it is a really interesting kind of look into where we're moving as a people. I think a lot of evolution has happened in the last 5 years or so, maybe a little bit longer, talking about 6-7 years, where everything is a possibility. And we talked about that last week, but I do think that people it is a responsibility for each person to try and use the resources to how they can be the hero in their own story. We're not in the world where you go to high school, you go to college, you go work at the power company for 30 years, you retire, and that's it. Some people do that, sure. But we're not in that world where that's just what happens. It's not that simple anymore. There's so many opportunities and so many possibilities that we can dictate more now than ever what we do every single day. That is really scary. That many options and those many, possibilities and that much dreaming is scary. But I do think that it's time now for people to take a really hard look at who is the hero in their story. Who the hell is the celebrity in their story, and why is it not them? It might be them to some people, and that's good. But no, I don't believe that celebrities are being smited down and hero worship is somehow dictating who dies and who doesn't. But this is one of those moments, and I have not been wrong in many of these moments, but I do feel like this is a change of the guard kind of thing where people are just souring on these, people who we put up for so long in society, the celebrities, the movie stars, the actors, the actresses, the musicians, and we're moving more towards just an everything. We're moving towards some people's favorite musician, maybe kind of an indie star. Some people's favorite TV show may be something that was created on YouTube. Someone's favorite quote-unquote actor may be someone on Twitch. I think that now it's just easier. We're giving so many more options. So this was a tweet that I think we do need to reflect on. Again, I don't think it's like literally correct, as in the murder of heroes, but think about it. That's the homework, I guess, is think about what this means to you. Like, do you think we're losing our hero, or we're losing the idea of hero worship? Do you think that celebrity, the better question is, how do you see celebrity? Who is a celebrity to you? Do you see them the same way that I don't think that people have posters of, I don't even know, a boy band right now or a band right now, but I don't think people have posters of, Tom Holland in their room like they used to, or they used to like with Leonardo DiCaprio and whoever. When I was growing up, I knew every girl in the school basically had a poster of a band or an actor in their room at some point. And I think that just changed. I don't think that is a thing anymore. I don't know if it's because there's so many other people as far as like Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, and you can't keep up with all of them. Who the hell knows? But I do feel like this is a change of the guard. And like I said, I haven't been wrong a lot on this. So this is a good time to really kind of look at how we evaluate who those people are. I've been on record saying that I don't think we'll ever see a tried and true politician win the presidency again. I think it'll always be people like The Rock or Donald Trump or whoever is the flavor of the month. But I do think we'll see that. People are more like people now versus, well, he's a politician, thus he must be president. Only politicians can be president. Now it's like, that doesn't really exist. Those cute little clubs, the movie star can only do the movie thing. The athlete can only do the athlete. The this can only be this. We're not there anymore. Which leads me to the last topic. So there was a conversation on Joe Rogan's podcast about a debate between Trump and Biden. And Joe Rogan said, well, I'll moderate it. And Trump kind of followed along. And Trump was like, yeah, that sounds good to me. And there's no word if this is going to happen or not. But a lot of people are saying that they would love to see this. And I'm not so warm on the idea. I love the idea of the debate, or more so the conversation of just Trump and Biden. But this is a weird marriage of things. We've talked about Joe Rogan before on here, or people like Joe Rogan who, every 24, 25-year-old, it's kind of figuring out who the hell they are, and they attach themselves to people like Joe Rogan or Ben Shapiro or whoever, and we go from there, and they take some ideals, and hopefully people take their ideals and use their own ideals to formulate a new ideal of who they are, right? Like, it's funny when you see people listening to Joe Rogan and they are looking for themselves, or looking to figure out who the hell they are, and they all of a sudden are doing bow hunting and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and throwing knives or something and running hills and trying DMT. It's like, well, you're just being Joe Rogan, and that happens all the time. It happens to everyone. Everyone goes through that phase when they're 24 to 30 where they're trying to figure out who they are as a person, and sometimes they do take on the characteristics of other people they listen to. Nothing wrong with that. But I think that a lot of people are in love with this idea of Joe Rogan moderating. Now, I like the idea of the conversation, but I don't know if that's who should be moderating this political debate or conversation, whatever it is. I do think this is one of those things where, like we just said, there is kind of the walls crumbling around the idea of politicians or a process or whatever. But this may be to jump too far. I mean, all of a sudden to have Joe Rogan, I love Joe Rogan, I listen to his podcast, to have Joe Rogan, who 24 hours previously could have been on DMT, who is a very free person himself, to all of a sudden elevate him to, this is where politics should be. This is where the presidency of the United States should be, is in a podcast at Joe Rogan's place next to a pink Himalayan salt crystal lamp. I do think there does need to be a little bit of a difference between what is the presidency and whose podcast should the president be on. This is a really slippery slope to, I don't think that only politicians should be president, but I also don't think that presidents should have their own podcasts and their YouTube channels and be playing on, video games on Twitch. Like, sure if you want, but that is a really quick change. That's a really, really quick change. And I'm not sure what people are so excited about with the idea of Joe Rogan hosting the debate. Are they, because they can't expect Joe Rogan to get too involved. I mean, I would hope not. That's not what a moderator does, so I totally understand the idea of we need to have Trump and Biden talk or debate or have a conversation. I'm there 100%. But I don't understand the obsession or the want or the need for it to happen with Joe Rogan or with whoever. I think that it's just it's not weirded me out, but it's confused me a little bit. And I think it's more along the lines of this doctrination where people, when they do go all in on whoever they turn to for their ideals and whatever, I think this is a chance for them to be like, oh, cool, I want to know what he's going to do in this setting so then I can know what I do. It's an easier way for them to say, yes, please let Joe Rogan do it, because it's an easy way for me to see into what he's talking about and how he reacts and how he understands everything. I mean, this is a guy, Joe Rogan, who endorsed Bernie Sanders, and I would guess a very high percentage of his listeners do not endorse Bernie Sanders. So, I just think we need to be a little more careful with the process than just handing, call her daddy. I wouldn't want to hear Melania Trump and, Biden's wife go on Call Her Daddy and tell each other ex-boyfriend stories. I'm not interested in that. There does need to be some kind of separation. So as much as I enjoy Joe Rogan's podcast, I don't think that he should be the site of a presidential debate. And it's nothing against Joe Rogan. I think it's just more about this marriage of all these things in the podcast. So there's still some thinking to do about it. There's still some how would it even work? What would they answer? Who would be there? Would it just be a free-flowing conversation? There's still some stuff like that to come out, but it's interesting how much people want that. It's interesting how many people are interested in that, and that makes you think, how are people viewing politics? And I do think it's to go back to what I was saying. I do think people now are looking more towards the person. They're looking more towards how cool is this person? Does this person talk good? Is he cool on social media? Is he charismatic? Can he have a free-flowing conversation? It's a lot less about the policy, a lot less about the presidency, and more about almost like a class favorite kind of thing, almost like a popularity thing. And that kind of scares me. Not going to lie. That kind of scares me. Because, I don't even know if we should have a president. I think a group of people would probably be a better way to run the country. But it kind of scares me when the presidency of the United States, probably the most powerful position in the world, is being decided by who is more charismatic or who is cooler on said podcast, or whose podcast is better, or who plays Fortnite better on Twitch. At what point is it all right, guys, I think this position needs to be held in a little bit higher regard. I think we do need to have an emphasis on politics, or the actual policy and the actual rules and the actual how they're going to govern the country, versus if they're trying DMT on Joe Rogan's podcast. So I don't know, but that's just my thoughts. But we're going to end the podcast there. We're going to get this out on Monday, and then we'll do the football show on Tuesday and have that podcast out on Tuesday. And we're still trying to figure out the schedule a little bit. We haven't hit that perfect schedule. Last week was a weird week because we did the 2-hour podcast, so we didn't have a podcast on Friday. We usually will, but if I give y'all, I'm not going to give y'all 3 to 5 hours of podcasts, one podcast and then 2 hours of another. I understand people can't listen to everything, so it's one of those deals where it's a balancing act. So I try and keep this to an hour on Friday, and then the football show in between. So sports kind of in its own place, kind of our societal thing in our own place, what have you. So we're still trying to figure it out, but thank you for listening. I do appreciate that. Interesting talk. It was good. It felt good to talk about stuff like this, where it's more theorizing, more of just kind of an outlook on everything, and less of, hey, here's what's on C-SPAN. Here's your TV Guide C-SPAN schedule. But I will be returning to Stars Hollow, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Seriously, go do that. Go let yourself be transported somewhere. Let yourself enjoy the simple things. Light a freaking candle. Home Sweet Home is a great candle choice. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. This has been the James Skrmetta Show podcast.